All right, so I want to welcome our broadcast to our online folks and our online community. So thank you for being with us here today on this Sunday, June 28th, 2026. I too often get dates all weirded out. So anyway, thank you for being with us. All right, so our opening prayer, please join me in our opening prayer. Infinite Spirit, we open our hearts and minds to our divine presence within and around us. We recognize that we are spiritual beings guided by truth, strengthened by faith, and connected through the one life that flows through all creation. As we gather in this time together, may our thoughts be lifted, our words be kind, and our awareness be expanded. Help us to release fear, doubts, and limitations, and to remember the divine power, peace, and presence that live within each one of us. And may we be blessed with clarity, harmony, inspiration, and love. And so it is. Amen. All right. So today we're going to have our guest speaker, Kline. And we're really privileged to have her join us today and bringing us her life's collection of her spiritual journey. Carol is the author of Streetwise Spirituality, former television anchor, producer, and talk show host. She earned her BA at the University of Southern California and her MA at Columbia University. She taught broadcast journalism at 2 universities, produced, coordinated, and programming for the Smithsonian Resident Associates, and became director of publications and journal editor for the American Chiropractic Association, among a few of the things that she's done. I had the privilege of visiting with her at where she lives, and I think she's the most popular lady where she lives. Everybody knew her. and I became known as Carol's friend. Hello, Carol and Carol's friend. It was lovely. It was such a great group of people. So help me welcome Carol. Come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is so good to be with all of you today. It feels like this is exactly the right place, the right time. Everything is just converging together, and I'm thrilled to be here. I first came here more than a decade ago to talk about my book, Streetwise Spirituality. There was something special about the energy here, special about the people. It was the closest I came to a world that I knew and loved, a world I missed, heart and soul. But I had family in Portland and much work to do, and it was not yet time. So, what brought me back now? I'm going to be 88 years old soon. I have no fear of death. Why would I? I know just as you do, there's no such thing. But I also know I'm not going to be here forever. The time is now. I've been getting nudges, of course, from Spirit. You know how that goes, this soft voice that doesn't quite sound like a voice. Call Reverend Madge. Her face keeps popping up in my mind until I send her an email. And that's when I learn she's been thinking about me too. Spirit is infinitely patient, and it will find a way. Last year, I met with Madge to talk about, as she said, donating my life's work, spiritual materials I've been collecting and keeping safe for 75 years. Madge consulted Spirit on her own and got a thumbs up. So last week, I brought over 800 metaphysical and spiritualist lectures on CDs, together with a Walkman CD player, a headset, transcripts of some of the lectures, and books. The collection now lives, or will, in the meditation room. And don't worry, that room's not going to be bursting at the seams. The space it takes up is mostly spiritual, not physical. So where did these materials come from? And why are they worthy of your interest and your time? It began long ago, not to anybody's surprise, in the spirit world, at a great convention of 5,000 souls. Those souls had already reincarnated into human bodies on earth many times, but the process they were using was not as effective as they hoped. Life on earth kept people focused on the physical, on the senses. The 5,000 wanted to begin a great experiment to shift people's focus from the physical to the spiritual. At that time, souls averaged 250 to 300 years between incarnations. That gave them plenty of time to forget past lives and get on with present challenges. But the great experiment would look like this. Instead of forgetting the past, what if remembering the past was the goal? Remembering the lessons learned, the growth accomplished, the loves, the losses, the mistakes, all of it. And what if the same master teacher reincarnated along with them again and again? A teacher who could suggest small, positive, doable changes in their lives, changes based on the wisdom of spirit, the deeper wisdom. At every one of their discussions, a master teacher named Agasha sat in. His soul, too, had experienced many human incarnations on earth. Agasha volunteered to be their guide, start to finish. So the plan was this: the 5,000 plus Agasha would rapidly reincarnate in an area known today as Egypt. If the experiment succeeded, they would graduate from Earth School by the time Agasha had his final lifetime, several thousand years later. Groups of these souls began incarnating into new human bodies until all 5,000 were living along the Nile River. In time, their arguments among themselves over religious differences caused them to split into 37 different sects. Now, Agasha was born into a nearby family. All he knew was that the warring sects along the Nile didn't much like each other, and they sure didn't like strangers. Agasha kept his distance. But after he grew up, Agasha went for a walk in the desert one day. There he met a man who told him all about that long ago convention in the spirit. He explained what Agasha had volunteered to do at that time. The man identified himself as Agasha's teacher in the spirit. Now, the members of all those sects were famously angry and stubborn. How would Agasha ever get them to connect with their souls? How could he get them to choose understanding over anger, empathy over hatred? Agasha's teacher told him he had a few thousand years to accomplish the impossible. The magnitude of the job made Agasha sit down and weep. When he tried to talk with sect members, most of them chased him away, but a few didn't. With every succeeding lifetime, some of the 5,000 were evolving until more and more graduated from Earth School, while others, like me, kept cycling back. Thousands of years later, Agasha was finishing up his last lifetime on Earth. He had to face facts. Many of us were still not ready to go. Out of compassion, he made a promise. 2,000 years in the future, he would come back in spirit on another continent. He would call our souls to him again. He would teach us the deeper wisdom again in the 20th century. Well, by that time, the experiment had worked mostly. Only 273 of us were left. 273 people who were still giving in to what Agasha calls mortal mind, which is a lot like the popular understanding of ego. We were no longer caught up in ancient sectarian hatreds, but neither were most of us about ready to arise. Agasha reached out to us telepathically, and one by one, we began to head to Los Angeles and the Agasha Temple of Wisdom. Now, years earlier, Agasha had had to solve a huge communications problem. He was in the spirit, we were in the physical. He could hear us, we could not hear him. So we had two choices. He could look for someone in the physical, someone psychically sensitive enough to take his message and pass it along to us. Master teachers in the spirit had used that method for millennia. Many philosophies and religions had come out of their great work. But spirit messages filtered through a human consciousness tended to get distorted by superstition, rituals, folklore, and people's desire for magic solutions to their problems. Sometimes it was just their hunger for power, fame, wealth. Agasha decided to try another way. He would partner with a gifted full trance medium instead, someone who could not misinterpret his words or his meanings, because only the medium's body would be involved, not his consciousness. Agasha started having telepathic conversations with a man named Richard Zenner. Richard was already known as the telephone between worlds. Even as a child, Richard lived with one foot in this world and one in the next. People were lining up outside his home every day, mostly to ask about loved ones who had passed over. By the time he was an adult, Richard's work was drawing large crowds to Southern California venues. Celebrities were knocking on his door. All that was about to change. When Agasha connected with Richard, he didn't beat around the bush. "You're wasting your gifts," he said. "You are not here to entertain people or to satisfy their curiosity. You don't have to prove to them that their loved ones are still alive. They should already know that. You are capable of channeling highly evolved spiritual beings. People on this planet need to know why they are here, how they can make the best possible use of their time. Humans have much to contribute on other planes, in other worlds, but first they need to master the life lessons that brought them right here to Earth." Now, Richard was a caring, really a loving man, but very quiet, not much of a conversationalist. He took great joy in passing along messages from spirits to people who were grieving. But Agasha explained that if the two of them decided to work together, Richard's soul, his mind, everything about him except his body would go somewhere else while Agasha was teaching. That was not what Richard wanted to hear. Now, Earth School has some unbreakable rules. Just as spirit cannot force us to do anything against our will, Agasha could not force this gifted full trance medium to work with him. Richard was going to have to choose it. And eventually, Richard realized that nothing he could do on his own came anywhere close to what Agasha had to offer. Richard said he would give most of his life over to Agasha's great purpose, but not all of it. "I want to be free to enjoy my weekends," he said. "Agreed," said Agasha. Now, as we all know, one of the biggest of the big questions is all about purpose. A friend of mine who used to work at the New Renaissance bookshop in Portland shared this true story with me. Customers assumed she had all the answers simply because she worked at a metaphysical bookstore. They would come up to her and say, "Tell me, what's my purpose? I know I have one, I can't figure out what it is." "I don't know what your purpose is," she would say, "any more than I know what mine is. We have thousands of books here. Maybe you can find your purpose in one of them." It was a good enough reply for a bookstore sales clerk, but it was not what they were looking for and not what they needed. In our heart of hearts, we know our lives are not just about being born, going to school, getting a job, raising a family, getting old, and dying. You come to earth, Agasha told us, to learn, grow, and expand in consciousness, to overcome what has overcome you in the past. There are people, he said, who will tell you it doesn't matter what you decide to do with your life because everything is predestined anyway. That's just not true, said Agasha. The soul lays out the bones, the basic framework of an individual lifetime. You have certain people to meet, certain things to do, some specific challenges to face. All are designed to give you opportunities to learn, grow, and expand in consciousness. But you are in charge of filling in the spaces. You do that with your willpower and the choices you make. What's important, he said, is not just what we do, but why, our intentions, our motivations. There are other people, he said, who believe life on earth is just a random flip of the cosmic coin. They say we have no purpose. Life just happened. So why not do whatever we like for as long as we can get away with it? Because life is short and death is forever. Life is short, Agasha told us, no matter how long it is. But death's like walking through a door. You are who you are, coming and going. There's no escaping ourselves, even if we wanted to. Agasha also brought up those people who say, if I can't take it with me, I'm not going. Those people may have their bodies frozen, kept on ice until some future time when they hope to awaken into a whole new world. You don't have the power to trap your soul in that little physical vehicle of yours, said Agasha. When soul decides you've learned what you came here to learn, or that you're not going to learn it in this lifetime, it will leave the body with or without your permission. So, what do we take with us? Our memories, he said, what we've learned, and what we have yet to master. Our souls keep a record of it all. Everything we do, say, think, and feel. Nothing is lost or forgotten or erased throughout eternity. If anything got left out, he said, that would be unfair to us. Well, I don't know how many seances you've been to, but I'd like to share what you would have seen and heard at the Agasha Temple of Wisdom if you'd been with me back then. By 8 p.m. of a Friday or Monday night, we would all be in our seats. Richard would walk up the center aisle of the auditorium. He'd sit in a large brown leather cocoon of a chair and start to meditate. In a few moments, Richard's soul would step out of his body. The soul of a spirit would quickly step in and start talking or singing. None of the entities who came through him sounded anything like Richard Zenner. A little girl named Margie was one of them. She was what's called a joy guide. She had passed over as a baby. Margie literally grew up in the temple. 20 years later, as an adult, she had become one of our many teachers. Pete was a funny, charming Italian, one of my favorites. Pete would make us laugh and then sing at the top of his voice. Pete was not a good singer, but his heart was in the right place. Richard also had what's called a doorkeeper. His name was Dr. Navajo, and his primary job was to keep Richard safe from mischief-making outside spirits, spirits who might try to slip into Richard's body in that brief moment between when the medium's soul stepped out and someone else took the wheel. Some of the spirits who came through spoke in languages none of us understood. Some spoke in ancient versions of languages a few of us knew. Nearly everyone spoke in English, and Agasha was always the keynote speaker. Now, if I were sitting where you are, I might be asking why 273 of the original 5,000 souls are still here, still reincarnating. Why haven't we already stepped off the spiral staircase of life? Well, I can't speak for the other 272, but after sitting with that question long and hard, I know the answer for me. It's fear, disguised as stubbornness, a passion for doing it my way. Mm. Stubbornness is the fear of change, the fear that makes us say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That kind of fear slams the door shut on innovation. It cuts off our connection to the spiritually active, creative thought process. Modern fear can also keep us focused on distractions and obsessions. Mortal mind says, I have all the answers, I can keep you safe. All mortal can do is keep us right where we are. If we're stuck, we have mortal and our connection to it to thank for it. So, how can we encourage our own growth? Agasha asked us to recognize and work with the Earth School duality of fear versus love. Fear says, close your eyes, limit your options, trust no one, get what you can while you can. Love in Agasha's book is the universal spirit God consciousness. Love tells us you are not here to be safe, untouched, unmoved. Have courage. Try something different. Ask yourself, what could I contribute to this situation? How could I help? All of that is love, he said, in the larger sense. Agasha told us if someone says, I loved him yesterday, but not today, that wasn't real love. Real love draws us together and toward our higher self. Fear keeps us worrying about things that never happen. Fear darkens days that should be full of light. Fear tells us, all I need to be happy is for someone else to change. Ooh, did I know that one? In a nutshell, Agasha said, fear cuts us off from one another and from ourselves. Think of jealousy, resentment, selfishness, greed, lack of forgiveness. Cut, 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 cut. Love connects us with one another and with the best that is in us. Think of compassion, gratitude, empathy, respect, creativity. Our fear-based imperfections do not make us unworthy of love, he said. We're all on a journey. And Agasha said, it's no use trying to hide our faults and weaknesses from each other. That doesn't work, he said. People already know everything about us. Life was never meant to be easy, he said. Human beings learn through adversity. If you had no conflicts to resolve, no pain or suffering, you'd sleep through it all, and that's not why you're here. One night, many years ago at the temple, people were talking about an earthquake that had shaken Los Angeles. When Agasha came through that night, he said, I've been getting lots of messages from you. You're asking me to give you a warning about the next earthquake so you can get out of town before it hits. I could do that, he said, but why would you want me to? If you survived, wouldn't you rather stay where you are? Wouldn't you choose to help your neighbors and friends? And even if that body of yours died trying to help others, it's not as if the real you could be destroyed, right? Well, Agasha's students were always very vocal, but not that night. We all went silent. He had shown us in real life how to make a choice out of love, not fear. Later that week, someone else asked, well, if we're supposed to help others, shouldn't we be out on the street sharing what we're learning here? Not necessarily, said Agasha. You don't want to run around asking people if they've been saved. If someone has a question, answer as best you can. Otherwise, just live in accord with the highest truths you know. Your actions show people who you are and what you believe more than any words you could ever speak. You are not here to get other people to change their minds, to think like you, to be like you. What you are here to change is you. Agasha's take on prayer, I thought that was pretty helpful too, so let me share that. He said he'd overheard a woman tell a friend, I don't believe in God anymore. My husband got cancer. I prayed for God to save him, but he died. A loving God would never have allowed that, and I won't pray to a cruel God. I can understand how someone might feel like that, said Agasha, but you need to know that every prayer is heard and every prayer is answered, just not necessarily in the way you want it to be. And he said, don't try to bargain with God, saying you will do this if God will do that. It makes it seem like a material transaction, $5 for a bag of beans. Prayer has nothing to do with anything material. When you pray, he said, make a good intention, send it with love, then let it go. Allow Spirit to work in its own way, which it will. I'm going to wrap this up with one of my favorite Agasha stories about our responsibility toward the poor. Perhaps you are walking in your neighborhood, he said. You notice a beggar sitting on a street corner. He looks up and holds out his hand. Can you spare a coin? I'm hungry. You may dig around in your pocket, find $1 or $2. You drop the money into his hand. Now what? You could walk on, telling yourself you did your good deed for the day, or you could speak to him as a fellow human, someone who has fallen on hard times. Hello, I'm Tom. What's your name? I'm Joe, mister. Good to meet you, Joe. What kind of work are you looking for? After a brief conversation, you go on your way. Day 2, and he's still there. You may want to stop and ask him how the job hunt is going. Perhaps you know of someone who's hiring. Maybe you give him a little money, or not. On day 3, he's still on that street corner. What now? You nod to him as you walk by, but you don't put anything into his outstretched hand. If all you give him is money, he will not grow, and neither will you. Today, I'm one of only a handful of Agashan students left walking around on this planet. I'm deeply grateful to Reverend Madge for letting me come and talk to you and to leave my collection for you as food for thought. I hope you will learn from these materials, respect them, cherish them, and preserve them for future generations, just as I have. I want to thank you for listening. May the great universal spirit God bless and inspire us all to learn, grow, and expand in consciousness. May we let go of the fears that hold us back and embrace the love of spirit that connects us all, now and forever. Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much for that very inspiring message and sharing your many stories. I bet you have more stories than you can even have time to share.
I do.
Yes, very nice. All right, so as we prepare our gift for the home center, and I find our paper. And it's not here. That's all right. Take our gift between our hands and bless it with your energy, with your love, with your support, knowing that this is supporting the home center in the best and highest way. As we receive this gift, we receive it in deep gratitude, knowing that it's circulating through us, through the universe, and back to you 100-fold, blessing you with all of your wants, needs, and desires for your highest and your greatest good. And let it be so. Amen. All right. And I'll share a little story while that's going around. I resourced this book. I've been sitting at my dinner table looking at my bookshelf, and I see these spirals, and I think, what book is that? And then I get up and don't think about it. Well, yesterday I thought, what book is that again? And so I pulled it out, and I thought, oh yeah, it's that book that has little short stories and a prayer of the day. So this one is called River. And it's based on this, the story is based on the saying by Harry Ward Beecher, and it's love is the river of life in the world. That's his saying. And so then a gal by the name of Susanna wrote this little story. It says, we have an irrigation channel that runs behind the back of our house. It's one of many that serves the farming community surrounding our home. I love walking along its banks, and I am not the only one. Birds flock to it. Geese patrol its banks. And my son Addison has even spotted a fox and its kit nearby. Why do we all love rushing waters? Since creation, rivers have harnessed and ushered in life and growth. And without rivers, animals, crops, and cities perish. Just like our farming community needs the canal's constant supply of water, I need the river of God's love flowing constantly through my life. Tributaries of hope, riverlets of grace, streams of peace. Without his spirit constantly moving through my life, I would perish. My river of love quenches my parched soul. His river of life is life-giving. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. So, and then the little saying at the bottom, God flowed my life with you, or flood my life with you, your river of love. Amen. So I thought that was really sweet. All right, so for our closing prayer, and we'll close our broadcast after that. And this prayer is one that is by, let's see if I can say his name, Baku Panyakara. He's the, I think I messed it up big time. I don't know how to speak it. But anyway, he's the monk that led the peace walk to Washington, D.C. Yeah, the venerable. I know how to say venerable. The rest of it. Anyway. But we all know who that is. I just thought this was so lovely that I wanted to use it today. May I be free from resentment and conflict. May I be free from physical suffering. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from danger, and may my body and mind be at peace. May all beings be free of resentment and conflict. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings be free from mental suffering. And may all beings be free from danger, and may their bodies and minds be at peace. May you and all beings be well, happy, and at peace. That's lovely. And as we close our broadcast, thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time, and from our heart to yours. All right.